Want to up your whitetail hunting game? We asked some diehard hunters what keeps most hunters from being good to great in the whitetail woods. Here's what they had to share. In your opinion, what mistakes are some of these better whitetail hunters making that keep them from being great? So this is maybe someone that's coming out here. Maybe they do okay in whatever state, and they come to a different spot or something else that they're good but not great in terms of their success.
The single biggest thing I would say is people spend too much time hunting, even during the season, and don't reassume the role of scouting even in the season. Mm-hmm. You know, if things aren't going right, you don't have the right wind. Some guys, and this is very typical, not that I'm picking on anybody because they're usually good hunters, but like we have guided a lot of guys from Pennsylvania, and it's just like they're bound and determined. They got to be in their stand dark to dark and sit there. You know, that's just how they were brought up and how they were trained. And, you know, my theory is always, you know, there's times to do that once you really have done your intel and everything's on. But on a day when I guess my biggest thing would be over hunting on the wrong days.
Okay.
You know.
And so explain what wrong days may be.
You know, if we have if you have a week to hunt and let's say you've got, November 5th to the 12th or 13th, and you look at the 7-day forecast and you say, okay, 2 of these days are going to be 75 degrees, that's warm for the rut. You don't want to be sitting all day those days. Maybe do a somewhat conservative morning hunt and then hunt an evening spot somewhere on a field edge where you are hunting, but you're primarily glassing or scouting. Mm-hmm. You don't pile into your best all day downwind of a, very tight bedding setup. That's not the day to do that. If in your forecast you have 2 days where the weather's going to be good, those are the days you go all in and go for that. And the biggest mistake I see, and most people, even people that have large farms, have a finite amount of good spots. Mm-hmm. So it's being disciplined enough to not be in a good spot on a bad day. Mm-hmm. That's the biggest thing. It seems like too many ideas just, charge into the timber and sit there dark to dark on the wrong days. So
yeah. And I think part of that may be this whole, you have to be aggressive to kill big deer.
Right.
And then I think people forget the part where they scouted glass.
Yes. Yeah.
Have a methodical plan, and then they're aggressive.
Right. The aggressive is 10% of the total effort invested. You know, you don't just jump out of the truck the first day and barrel into the middle of the timber. And then, and the other thing I would say that a lot of the mistakes a lot of people make is, not spending the summer and stuff setting things up for success in the fall. Mm-hmm. Having a plan for this wind, have a plan for that wind, have conservative spots, aggressive spots, and know when to use them. Mm-hmm.
So really, I mean, it's just like anything. The more work you put into it with thought, the better success you ideally will have.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And so the two biggest things is hunting the best spots on bad days, and then also just being blindly aggressive without just because you're being aggressive.
Yep. And those would be the main ones. I mean, there's some others that I could definitely relate to, but those would probably be the biggest ones.
What are some of the most effective hunters that have come out here to hunt? What do those guys have in common? Because you get I've never been around it, but I have to imagine you get the full sample of the white-tailed deer hunter.
Yep. I would say, knowing this because I did help guide for a friend years ago in Missouri where we didn't have the tag constraint. And I would say Iowa, even though we kind of are around a wide variety of hunting, we probably still have the upper 10% of the skill set because it takes somebody with some forethought and planning to put in for 5 or 6 years to draw their tag. Whereas in Missouri, people could buy a tag over the counter, and so you dealt with people from no skill set to a very a very high skill set for sure. So.
And so like most of the guys that are coming out here are pretty well polished hunters.
Yeah, I would say overall. They they're above average hunters for sure.
What's one mistake that they have done under your guys' wing that you see? They're like, don't do this, and then they're like, but this is how we do it.
The number one thing that happens is people, getting down and tracking deer. That's the biggest one because they just can't wait. You know, and we try to run a pretty strict protocol. Primarily because we recover the highest rate of deer by doing this. If we don't know exactly where the shot is, don't even go to the arrow if the weather's good. Back out, let us, go through all the information you can give us, and then we'll make a plan on how to do it.
How long do you suggest to wait? And so let's just walk through this scenario, because someone
Sure.
listening this in November, maybe it already
Yep.
happened to them,
Yep.
or it's going to,
Yep.
or maybe it's a buddy that they're going to help. They have a buck come in, they shoot it, let's say, I don't know, 25, 35 yards,
Right.
and it was in a thick brush. They shoot
Right.
it, they don't know.
Right.
I hit him. I think I hit him.
Yep.
I saw him for a second. Like, that's the bare minimum information you're rolling with.
Yeah, if that's the if that's the story, and if we got that information like via text message or something where somebody say, hey, what should I do? In that instance, I wouldn't even recommend going to look for the arrow. If this is let's assume it was a morning hunt. If it was a morning hunt or in the morning, I would tell somebody, hey, sit there for an hour, quiet, pack up what you can without making a big disturbance, climb down, and go out 100% the opposite way of where you last knew that deer was, quietly. And then I would probably, in a situation like that, give it 4 to 6 hours. Then we'd go in and try to find the arrow. Finding the arrow is going to tell us what kind of hit we have, if any. And then once we've established what the hit was, then if it's a known to be gut shot, we would be waiting so many more hours before pursuing it. If it's good blood, then we'd probably take off at that point right after it. But too many people can't wait. They find the arrow. If they do go get the arrow, then they see some blood, then they want to walk, and then they want to walk,
And then they bump out his
then
first
you
bed.
bump them, and then the whole game changes.
Yeah.
So
Meaning that the likelihood of finding them just...
yes, if it's a marginal hit, after that first bed, your chances of recovering that deer go way, way, way down. So
What about to circumnavigate that or avoid that? Do you have any advice for someone to take to heart right now in the moment of truth to make a good shot? Let's say they can't. There's no summer practice now because
right,
this is
yeah,
November.
you're already here. Yep.
So now, what do you? Is there a mental checklist you go through? Is there any tricks of the trade?
I mean, I think it's, I think that stuff just comes down to, unfortunately, somebody's experience level, because at that point, you're going to be depending on instincts to make the shot and stuff like that. And that's where I would say anyone that's going, and getting ready to go on a big hunt like Iowa, or maybe you're going out west or something. Like, if you have the ability at home to spend some evenings trying to fill a few doe tags, that's the best. You know what I mean? Because it's the same thing, and just get used to that. And then the other thing is, and everybody knows they should do this, but just truly focusing on high percentage shots. If it's not right, don't take the shot. It's hard. I know it's hard not to, but if it's quartering towards or, something like that, just wait. More than likely, a better opportunity is going to present itself. So
Just generally speaking, what do you think most hunters might be doing wrong that could be limiting their success, or maybe some things that they're overlooking? And so if it's the same kind of theory from previously, that's fine, but I'm curious if there's something else.
I guess the thing that's had the biggest impact on me, and what I've really, from the study we did that we were just talking about, to be a little bit boring, I would probably go back to, I don't think we give enough credit to the disturbance that we're causing on the landscape and how serious we need to be with that. And that too, Jake, I mean, it ties into what we're talking about when we're scouting, when we're hunting. It goes back to earlier in our conversation with shooting deer on a food plot and wondering why that buck is not showing his face during daylight hours. I think it's trying to become as invisible as possible. I think people forget that. And we also, I think we get accustomed to, we go to the food plot and we see some deer and we see some does and we see some young bucks, and I'm seeing deer. What's wrong with what I'm doing? Because I'm seeing deer, but you're not seeing the bucks that you want to see. That's probably the biggest take home for me, that I've really changed and started taking seriously the last 5 years.
So you're just ultra careful with access, how you hunt it, basically all the things that a lot of the really successful hunters also preach to.
Yeah.
And I say that like not tongue in cheek, but like it really can be that simple.
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, just like you mentioned, look at all these people that year after year after year kill these big deer. They take all this very, very seriously, and most hunters don't.
Hmm.
You
Yeah.
know, they don't think about the cascading effect of the route that they took, the noise that they made, where their scent was blowing. You just go sit in the woods and think, no big deal, but it does matter.